Good morning. I'm Jackie Coyle-Shapiro, Chair of the OB Division, and I would like to welcome you to the OB Division's 2015 Lifetime Achievement Award Address. The Lifetime Achievement Award is by far the most prestigious award given by the OB Division, and one of the most prestigious awards given within the Academy. Established in 2005, the award recognizes preeminent scholars who have made exceptional contributions to our discipline throughout their career. In selecting a winner for this award, the selection committee looks for someone who has not only been an outstanding scholar in terms of their publication record, but also someone who has helped shape the field. They also look for an individual who has contributed to OB scholarship and practice, not just by publishing impactful work, but through activities such as mentoring doctoral students and junior faculty, exceptional teaching, work that speaks to practitioners, editorships of major journals, and other leadership positions within the profession. This year's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient is Jane Dutton, the Robert L. Kahn Distinguished University Professor in the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan. Jane is unambiguously deserving of this honor. Following Jane's talk, there will be time for questions and dialogue, and I hope that you will come to the Making Connections coffee around the corner in Ballroom C when it is over. I am now very pleased to turn the floor over to Amy Wisniewski, who will introduce Jane and help honor her. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce Jane Dutton. My name is Amy Wisniewski, and I count myself lucky to have had the opportunity to work with Jane as a doctoral student at Michigan and to have worked with her on a variety of things ever since. But much more than that, I and so many others am deeply grateful to the fates. People like Jane are extraordinarily rare. And for all of us who have been touched by her scholarship, her generosity, her ability to connect people from across the universe to make great things happen, and simply her example, we are all the better for it. The field recognizes this. The OB Lifetime Achievement Award marks the 4th time a division has bestowed this honor upon her. Today, the OB division joins OMT, MOC, and ODC, as well as the Academy as a whole, which has honored her with its Distinguished Scholarly Contributions to Management Award. We are in Canada, and if hockey has its hat trick, academia now has the Dutton. We are thrilled to celebrate this with you today. Jane loves the metaphor of a garden, and Jane, your garden is bountiful. In so many areas, your work with your colleagues has seeded new literatures for research on compassion, identity, issue selling, high-quality connections, job crafting, and others. The range and reach of this work is breathtaking. You have cultivated a rich variety of blooms, seeming fearless in your eagerness to move into important new questions, new being the operative word. Watching you tackle brand new questions, new literatures, and new methods again and again successfully has defined what hard work and true scholarship looks like. But Jane's garden grows far beyond this. Though she has seeded new fields of research with her work, she has also planted, tended, and cared for many doctoral students. From this garden, so many of us have emerged with the guts to pursue the work that we most wanted to do and the lives we most wanted to live. Because of your investments in us, your partnership with us, and your deep connection to us. Your example is never far from our minds. You may not know this, But many of us invoke the question of, what would Jane do? When we're facing our toughest academic, professional, and even personal quandaries. It always helps. It makes us better people. When a scholar who defines the standard of excellence for her academic work is also looked to as a moral exemplar by those who know her so well, you know she's doing something right. Jane, today we celebrate you for the work you are doing, but even more than this, we celebrate you for the wonderful human being you are. Congratulations.
So thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. I am usually terrified of doing these kinds of talks, but I am so excited to be here, partly because I can't wait to share with you these beautiful slides that Wendy Hara has helped me create that bring to life in ways that I couldn't myself, the images that I find that sustain me. But I also want to just say, if I could look at each one of you and just say what a ride this has been in this career, and it would never be nearly what I experienced without all of you. So thank you. Okay, now the slides. I have traveled from the beginning of my career. I was a strategy professor to sort of more focus on organization theory. Now I'm back kind of in my homeland in organization behavior. And across kind of that weave, get it, weave, of my professional life, both personally and actually theoretically, I've gotten really interested in why and how connections with other people matter. And that is really the title and the inspiration for what I want to share with you today. Make connections matter. And I mean it, before I move on, I mean it in a way that is not instrumental. This is not a social exchange account of connection. This is about connecting in ways that are life-giving to each of us. So connection with other people are my life. Connections with other people are all of our lives. I have gotten passionate about high-quality connections, and Emily Heafy and I, many years ago, wrote a chapter that has become, in 2003, on high-quality connections, and it has become a mantra, a way of thinking and doing that's been really important, again, both personally and professionally. This image reminds me to tell you the story. The idea of high-quality connections, which I'm going to explain in much more detail, again, orients us to thinking about small bits of interactions that matter. And at the Ross School of Business, when you walk into the front door, there's actually a Starbucks. I thought that was a bad idea when they proposed it. I love it. But what I really love is Norma. Norma, Lance, my husband, knows Norma. I mean, many of us who are at Ross know Norma. Norma is a person who works at Starbucks who, when you don't have to say a word to her, the way she greets you with her body just strengthens you. And so this image is to remind us again, and think about what your experience has been since you've been at this conference. You know, how many opportunities we've had for these small bits of interactions, sometimes with words, sometimes not with words, that have made a difference in what our experience is here. The talk I want to share with you has 4 goals. One is I want to infect you. I'm hoping I'm starting to infect you with the ideas about the power of high-quality connections at work, but more importantly, beyond work. Also engage you with an interpersonal challenge in connection building, and I'm going to share with you, some of you who have hung around me for a while know this is my favorite exercise, and I am going to invite you to do it because I want to give it away because it really works in teaching, but also just to get us experiencing this rather than just talking about it with our heads. And then intrigue you, and this is really where, as an organizational person, and all of us as organizational scholars, is help us to think together about how organizations make a difference in both the frequency and the quality of the connections that we can build with each other. And again, I want to use you to think about that two ways. One is, as people in organizations, in a job that's really demanding, how can we think about organizations, structuring our departments, or trying to advocate whole organizations or business schools, if that's where we work, to be more conducive to building these high-quality connections, especially because they are literally life-giving. And then I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to walk out of here and think about how we can make connections matter in our research, and more importantly, in our own professional and personal practice. So when I think about high-quality connections, I often think about them on a continuum. That, if you think about this again, the full spectrum of small bits of interactions with other people, we have low-quality connections, and because those are often painful, those actually consume a lot of our attention. We know that their impacts sometimes last longer. We have neutral connections, and I don't think we really think enough about, well, what are the positively deviant interactions that we have? The kinds of interactions that we have are connections microbits of connections that we have with others that are generative. These are the ones that we take for granted. Actually, research says we actually have a lot of these, but we don't necessarily pay attention to them, savor them, or architect situations so we can have more of them. So how do you know a connection with another person is high quality? And the work that we've done and other people have done suggests that at the subjective experience level, there are three defining features. You know high quality connections by how they feel. And so research suggests that when you're in these connections, you experience an enhanced sense of vitality. So when you have the experience, you probably had at this conference, when you're interacting with certain people, you may be a little droopy. And after the interaction with you, notice that you're a little bit lit up. Well, in fact, you are lit up. Subjectively and physiologically, they have lit you up. So vitality is an important part of the subjective experience of a high-quality connection. But you also know it as well as feel it. And Carl Rogers, a long time ago, made a wonderful sort of point about positive regard. And what I love about the idea of positive regard is this idea that even, again, without saying anything to another person, you sense and know that that person is interacting with you in a way that sees, in some sense, the best in you. That there is a sense of maybe love in the moment. With that person. And also this sense of mutuality. I love this idea of mutuality, especially from organizations. I'm borrowing heavily from the work at the Stone Center, Wellesley College. They've done just wonderful work around growth in connection. They have a developmental model of how people grow in connection with others. And they talk a lot about this quality of mutuality. And why I think it's so mutuality means in the moment you sense this joint participation and openness with the other person. And why it's so important in organizations is that in organizations there are structures. There are lots of things that divide us, that make people higher, people lower, people different, people similar. And the idea of mutuality is the sense that when you feel connected to another person with this, in a higher quality connection, those differences disappear in the moment. And so you can equally kind of participate in the connection and what unfolds. Now, we first learned about the power of high-quality connections from hospital cleaners. And one of the, 1998, when Amy Wisniewski and Galai Debeba and I decided we wanted to study hospital cleaners, I remember the reaction of my department was like, what? Why do you want to do this? We have learned so much. I would say we're still learning. But one of the things that came out in that study was we asked people to tell us stories of typical interactions that they had with the patients, with the nurses, with the doctors. And we learned a lot about the power of high-quality connections, but also about the power of low-quality or toxic connections. So here's in the words of a cleaner who's talking about interactions with patients. So she's characterizing kind of the typical interaction with patients, which became, and again, in all these stories, sort of the model example of these high-quality connections. So listen. With patients, you come out there, you go, they really like you to sit and talk with them and just be social. I like that. I think everybody likes to be social. Yeah, so stuff like that. All the patients, and I haven't met one that is bad. And the visitors, too, they're interested in what you do, even though it's just housekeeping. They're interested. I guess you appreciate that. It makes you feel all right. And they say thank you a lot. And we often know high-quality connections in contrast to the opposite. So here is a cleaner talking, this is one excerpt from talking about the relationship with nurses, or her connections with nurses. I've noticed, like, the whole time I'm down there, they really don't have too many things to say to me. But the first time they needed something, it's like, oh, Chally, could you please do this or that? Then it's like, oh, you know, I'm not saying it to be sarcastic, but it's kind of like saying, well, oh, I'm glad they do acknowledge me and they do know my name, because for a while there, I don't even think they acknowledged that I was there, you know. But you kind of take it for what it is. You take it for what it's worth. I've learned a lot to take it just for as it is. So why do high-quality connections matter? I'm going to give you two sort of general, two of my favorite ways to talk about it, and then I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So one of the ways I like to talk about this is that high-quality connections strengthen people from within. And I love this image, by the way, of the two hummingbirds. I mean, the idea is, again, that when you're in these really connections, both people are being sort of strengthened endogenously because of partly what's happening to people's bodies. Okay, that's sort of the micro, that's my favorite kind of way of talking at the micro level. But I also, because of my OT strategy background, I love the challenge of talking about this in ways that speak to top-level managers. And this is the way that I found works the best. And it's a kind of a simple schema that Gretchen Spreitzer and I came up with based on the work that we did in the most recent Positive Leadership book. So we had this simple way of talking, and I actually think if when I show you this, you say, oh, so-and-so did this, please tell me, because I can't, you know, sometimes you think you're doing something original, and then it seems so good you go, oh, you know, somebody else had to do it. Anyway, I'm just inviting, if this looks familiar, you know, I hope I'm attributing. Anyway, so think about any organization. Think about your business school, and think about, you know, that you have some metric that you care about. And you're gauging as a leader or a manager, you're trying to basically get better along that metric. And so in 2015, you see yourself, maybe you're not that low. It doesn't matter where we start. This is actually pretty bad. I probably should have moved the line up a little bit. But anyway, the point is you're getting better, okay? So by 2018, you're getting better. And okay, so, and then think about, well, what if there's another line? There's another line so that the rate at which you get better, the trajectory of your own effectiveness improvement is much higher. And what the positive organizational scholarship lens, I'm now pitting the high-quality connection stuff into the positive organizational scholarship, and says that it's really important for people to imagine there's another line and to see that there's actually a zone of possibility. Seeing that zone of possibility, seeing a positive image of the future is actually resourcing in the present, okay? And what a positive organizational scholarship perspective gets you to think about is what are all the different ways that you can unlock resources from within without adding material and financial resources, such that the line, whether it achieves this high-level line or somewhere in between, actually shifts. And I think about high-quality connections as just one of the ways. So there's many ways we can think about unlocking resources from within. But high-quality connections, I'm increasingly becoming convinced are probably one of the most potent. So high-quality connections or positive relationships, again, I'm focusing on connections because I'm really interested in these micro bits, but positive relationships, we could talk about the same thing. So this works, by the way. When you have a napkin and someone says, if, for example, what is this positive organizational thing anyway? This I've found actually travels well. So thanks, however, to research that we have done, we know that high-quality connections do certain things. One is they increase physiological health. A second is they increase your capacity to think and create. Third is they increase your capacity to adapt and resilient. And I singled these out just because I've been lucky to co-author with people that show this to varying degrees. But if we were actually looking at kind of the full set of empirical research that suggests that these high-quality connections matter in many ways, we can look first at the individual level. And there's really, each one of these bullets should actually have citations on it, because there are citations that actually, if any of you are interested in that, I can send you the citations. I have it in another presentation. But when you're in these high-quality connections, what happens to your neuroendocrine cardiovascular systems is quite astonishing within a short period of time, such that people are more resilient, they're psychologically stronger. It's actually quite amazing. I mean, it's amazing to me, actually, given how potent they are at the individual level, that we aren't training our kids about this, because it's a way for people, for young children, for your whole life to orient towards in ways that are actually health building for yourself. In really potent ways. But again, as organizational scholars, what's important is not just what it does at the individual level, but what it does at the team level. And I'm just going to single out Jodie Hoffer-Gattel, whose work on relational coordination is extraordinary in healthcare settings, and she's shown quite convincingly about the power of these high-quality connections, particularly in coordination, what that does for really important team-level outcomes. And obviously for hospitals, which is often the context that she's studying, they have important organizational implications too. So there's organizational implications as well. The power in high-quality connections is how they build resources in you and other people. And I'm now going to show you one of my other favorite ways of talking about this. So imagine there's two people, and they come together in an interaction. Ooh, I love this. And the high-quality connection, they get stronger. That's what those thicker lines are all about. You know, they're getting stronger in multiple ways. But again, as an organizational researcher, what's so important in terms of, what we're really trying to do is understand a sustained effectiveness in whatever organizations are trying to do. What is also important about these high-quality connections is what happens in the space between people. And I think our research suggests that there's at least three things that happen. One is you get a greater emotional carrying capacity, so that in that connection, in the moment, it can carry both positive and, this is really important, negative emotions. So it's just like a healthy vessel between two people. It can carry the nutrients, this is called that the positive emotions, and it carries away the waste, the negative emotions. So this is not, in these high-quality connections, it's not just about being nice and happy. There's a functional capacity in that work that's really important. It also has greater tensility, or the capacity to bend, and greater openness or permeability. And it is oftentimes, it's a simultaneous impact of the resourcing that's happening in the two individuals, plus what they're sowing in the soil between them. What's happening in the soil between them that makes this stuff so powerful at the collective level. Okay, so I have convinced you, right, that high-quality connections are really important. So now's the active part, and I think so now I'm going to show you my favorite. I teach a whole elective on high-quality connections. It's called Managing Professional Relationships at Work, but at the core of it is this idea of high-quality connections. And the exercise I'm going to ask you to do is something that we aren't going to debrief for very long here, but I can tell you, you can debrief it for 90 minutes. It's really has a lot of potency as a way of unpacking kind of what we already know and what we do about these high-quality connections. So what I'm going to ask you to do, and I'm so glad that, so I'm going to go through what I'm going to ask you to do, and then we're going to do it. And I'm standing up here, you're sitting, so you have to do what I ask. But it'll feel awkward and weird, but I hope that you'll stay with me to see what it does. So I'm going to ask you to stand up, and you don't need to walk near a person that you don't know. But if I were doing this in class, or I do this when I run workshops, I purposely invite people to do this with people they don't know. Because part of what I'm trying to do is change the network in the room, change the people that are sort of most disconnected. I'm trying to connect them in a particular way. And it's actually, so again, if you really believe in the uplift of the capability of a collective, if there's more high quality connections between them, I'm already, by doing that, enhancing the capacity and capability of the whole. So I'm not gonna ask just someone close by to you, and try not to connect. That's the hard part. Now, there's a lot of people that are sitting with people that they already know really well, but that's okay. We'll see what this unfolds, even if it's somebody that you know really well. Decide who will lead. When I ring my bell, you're going to have 45 seconds to build a high-quality connection to the other person. Then I'm going to ring the bell again, and then you're going to switch the leadership. So then the other person has to lead. Yeah, I don't want to, and then you have to stop when the bell rings, and I'll tell you what to do next, okay? So, so figure out who you're going to do this little connection with, and figure out who's going to lead. Don't connect too much. Don't connect too much. Don't connect too much. All right? You're connecting, you're connecting. Okay. Are you ready? Are you ready? All right, begin. Okay, switch. The other person leads. Okay, stay for a minute, just stay where you are. What I want you to do is give one piece of feedback to the other person about what they did that you experienced as effective or helpful in building the connection. So we're just going to have, I won't make you do anything after that, okay? But I want you to give a piece of feedback, because it's a rare opportunity that we get any feedback about what we do in this realm. So please give one piece of feedback to each other. Okay, thank you. You can sit down. So, thank you for doing that. But could you feel the energy? I mean, there is so much you can talk about. Usually what I do is I ask, what worked, and have people give examples, and what didn't work, and then we talk about that. And it's just really, really generative as a possibility. But I'm just going to pull 4 points out from what I usually talk about. I'm so curious. I'm not used to going on without talking to you about what worked. But anyway, I'll go on. So 4 observations about high-quality connections from this exercise is first, moves matter. There is path dependence. If you can imagine, a high-quality connection creates an opening for a trajectory of capacity building in connection with another person. What happens in the first couple of seconds is actually really consequential in the capacity or the capability that unfolds. And oftentimes that is because the first question that is asked either opens up or closes down the dancing, or the mutuality, the expanding of the mutuality and the positive regard. And, again, when I'm teaching this, I talk a lot, we share a lot of notes and talk a lot about what is a good first question to ask. What came to mind? I mean, you probably, some of you asked a question. Did you ask the typical professional question, or did you find a question that you experienced as unlocking? And as we've gone into these positively deviant organizations that really do this well, people have really good questions that open up the potentiality and convey interest and curiosity and regard really fast. So think about for yourself, what's in your toolkit? What kind of questions did you use? What kind of questions would you like to ask? There is biobehavioral synchrony. There's a lot that we could talk about our bodies and our body. I mean, the beautiful thing about working with this idea is we're born to do this. We're born to do this. Unfortunately, we oftentimes unlearn it because of our families, educational institutions. I mean, we can go on and on about the things that disconnect us from our bodies and maybe don't let us use this exquisite, beautiful instrument that we had for human connection. But when you really pay attention to it, there's a lot of implications organizationally about what we can do to facilitate that and capitalize that. And then, no surprise, context matters. So in this context, I mean, we're in this celebratory. There's a lot of things that would make this okay. You guys all went along and sort of did it. But in organizations, again, people, if you have project teams that are invited early to build these high-quality connections, that's an example. You could think about project teams that really vary in terms of their cultures, their norms, their practices, that would make building high-quality connections easier or more difficult. And that gets me to, so how do organizations matter? Anyway, I'm just going to make a couple of points here. Oh, gardens. I mean, how can I do a talk without gardens? Organizations are like gardens, and the way I like to think about it is this high-quality connections are like the soil, or organizations have structures, practices, a whole bunch of other things that till the soil of connection. And so some people, and I teach a whole lot of these people, especially when I was teaching at night in Michigan, where the economy, was really, work in really barren soil. They have few high-quality connections, and they are languishing. They are dying a little bit, a day at a time. And in what's been so immensely exciting about focusing and studying positively deviant organizations or units is their soil is so incredibly bountiful. There's so much to learn from them. It's fertile. There's many high-quality connections, and they're flourishing. And it's not just they're flourishing in the sense of people being healthier and growing, but there's more creativity, more innovation. I mean, all of the things that you could imagine expressing more life in a collective. That's what those positively deviant teams and organizations are doing. It doesn't mean it's always like that. Even in these positively deviant organizations, there's fluctuation, but there are moments of flourishing. And I think, again, as organizational scholars, what's so exciting is, how can we think about organizational structures and processes that enable these kinds of bountiful gardens. So I'm going to give you, again, 4 points. One point is that recently gotten really interested in is we know that priming matters. In psychology, priming is just a really important process that people have studied. I think we've become really aware, Christina Workman and Ashley Harden and I have been working on some work that's made us very aware of how organizational norms and routines prime us to see people particular ways that has relational consequences. And so an organization provides us in some ways for a lens for seeing people. So in this lens, you can see people, but maybe you can't see all of their you see the collective, you can't see all their individual details. In this lens, if you could see the detail, you can see the life in every person, versus an organization that provides people with a lens that grays people out. It kills, in some sense, the life or the possibility that you see in another. I'm going to give you 2 stories. One is with our daughter, Emily, who started a new job like a month ago, and we watched her boss, because her boss was implementing the routine at this organization, send out an email to other organizational members that gave people all kinds of information about Emily, enacted Emily in a particular way, such that when she came on board that first day, there was already the huge potential for meaningful, high-quality connections built right away. So that's kind of a personal example that was really vivid to us because of M's just rapid relational onboarding. I'll talk about that in a minute, but it was really amazing. And then the example with work that I've done with Ashley and Christina is we've been studying universities and how faculty in different universities in New York and New Jersey respond. Some of you that we interviewed are in the room. Thank you for. We were interested in how people detected, noticed, surfaced the suffering of their fellow colleagues and the students, where there was such variability in the degree to which people were impacted by Hurricane Sandy. For those who aren't in New England or New York or in the United States, it was a big bad hurricane that happened a couple of years ago. And what was really scary was that some universities primed the faculty to see the worst in students. Sort of said, okay, this is the opportunity that students are really going to try to take advantage of you. You better watch out. They're going to, try to get out of stuff. And it was just, you primed a way for them to relate to the students that was fundamentally different than in some universities where they said basically give the students the benefit of the doubt. There's no way we're going to know how harmed they are or their families. Do everything you can, and we're behind you. So one way organizations matter, and this is something that we're getting really interested in, is how they prime the way we see the schema by which we see each other, especially in beginnings, and then how that then unfolds but with a particular kind of relational dynamic. A second way to think about how organizations matter, and I've already hinted at this, is that they filter people. So they use selection processes, and then they orient people in ways that, again, either make high-quality connections easier or more difficult to build. So Menlo Innovations is a wonderful example. Richard Sheridan has a book called Joy. He's the CEO of Menlo. It's in Ann Arbor, and they do this really cool paired programming. So they do programming in pairs. And because that's the way they do this technical work, obviously interrelating is really consequential strategically for the effectiveness. So they do what they call extreme interviewing. People have to go to Menlo and work for 2 weeks for nothing. And they have to basically work hand to hand with 50 other people. And those people determine whether or not that those people will be selected. So that's sort of an extreme case of selecting on relational capability, but we've written a case on LinkedIn and how LinkedIn, whose CEO, Jeff Weiner, talks about the importance of compassionate leadership. And I, again, after working in business school for 30 years, sometimes get a little cynical about what CEOs say, whether that really trickles down to what's actually done. But LinkedIn, actually, when they're selecting people, the case we wrote was actually about selecting interns. The questions that they ask the interns to determine whether or not they're going to hire are compassion questions. So there's scenarios about suffering that has happened in the workplace, and what they're trying to do is see whether the students, the people, the potential interns sort of display more compassionate values, and they use that as a basis for selection. So selection and onboarding relation, I already gave you that example with Emily, our daughter, are important ways. A third way that organizations matter is they routinize and reward or not interpersonal helping. And IDEO, there's a great HB article that I cite down here. If you ever wanted to use it in teaching, it's really fantastic, where they document the different ways that IDEO, again, a knowledge design firm where strategically interpersonal effectiveness and coordination for knowledge work is really important. What you see is there's lots of different ways that they're institutionalizing, helping, or task enabling in ways that's making for faster, high-quality connections. So Tim Brown, leader, CEO, sort of manifests leadership conviction to this when he's constantly saying, the more difficult problem, the more help we need, and our job is to make other people succeed. And what's so interesting in this article is they report out that 80% of the people working at IDEO talk about how they've become really good helpers there, and that affects them actually outside of doing the work at IDEO. It affects them in their life. And the cool thing, the Slack by Design point is, unlike Google that uses Slack in people's days for innovation, they use Slack in people's day. They build it in for helping, for spontaneous helping. So there's lots of ways that organizations can institutionalize a possibility for high-quality connection building through how they reward or not interpersonal helping. They also, in their cultures, value or not people's full humanity. And Monica Warline has brought to our Center for Positive Organizations the vivid example of Hope Lab. And we've been really lucky enough to have Chris Murchison as an in-residence leader at the center. And he has been documenting some of the practices that have been in place at Hope Lab that, again, I think make it a beautiful garden for high-quality connection. I'm just going to show you one short video about how they offboard people, or what I love about this example is basically what I'm going to show you is how people experience their humanity in a time when you wouldn't think it would be possible. And this is a time when you're let go on your job. And so I'm going to take you to the documentation of the letting go of one programmer. This video is available off their website, Hope Lab. They have actually several videos if you find it something that you'd like to teach with or use in other ways.
My name is Austin Harley, and this is my story about my thriller flash mob goodbye.
In any organization, you have people coming in and also people leaving. We try to think about what would be special to honor them and celebrate them as they're leaving us.
I just thought we have to do something big and silly that Austin would enjoy.
He loves Thriller.
And so the word got out that Austin loves Thriller and that he knows the whole dance.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. I love Thriller. The song itself is really catchy and really well done, and it's a little spooky at the same time, but not exactly scary. Yeah, I am a fan of the song.
Good. So let's do a zombie dance.
The day that we rehearsed, we must have had in the conference room 15 people, and we had a YouTube video we were following. It got sweaty in there.
Always, like you're open to the direction you're going to. So
This would definitely not have happened anywhere I've worked before. I've come from a public accounting background and, really more consulting type of places, so everything is work, work, work. That is not at all what Hope Lab is about. They like to bring work and play together. the inner fun of everyone here is at like their peak.
I thought it was fabulous. I just thought it was really unique and fun. And if the staff were willing to do it, I thought it would really push all of us to an edge of having fun that we've not been to before.
I don't know what just happened in there.
They are moving and shaking it.
That was so much fun.
I'm schwitzing. I can't take it anymore. Can't wait for the day.
The day of the flash mob was pretty exciting. We were hiding the costumes and the wigs and the makeup, and we all had it very carefully timed. Got out to that courtyard, got in places. It was a great buzz.
We walk around to the courtyard, and there's just a bunch of people laying down out there. And then they all get up, and they're all like dressed in their crazy torn rags. I was like, oh, wow, I had no idea this was coming. They started dancing, and then somebody's like, oh, you should join in, join in. So I joined in. It was kind of just a wow moment. That we were all doing that together was great. That's the exact kind of thing that I would want to do. And I danced with them for the rest of the song. We all fell down, and that was it. I was trying to keep composure a lot, you know what I mean? Because it was really sweet. For them to all be willing to dance out in public dressed in ridiculous things says a lot about both the value that they place on the people who work there and also feeling like they really knew who I was in the end.
Every individual matters. And so what we did for Austin was a way of honoring how he matters to us. And I think that makes everyone feel cared for. Deepens our connections with each other, creates more joy in the organization, and was a fantastic way to send off Austin as well. So he will also remember this forever.
It's kind of a ridiculous thing to do, and absolutely the best goodbye that I've ever had.
So I love that. I love the idea of, reinventing some of our routines and practices in ways that really bring out the humanity in each other, honor it, and then make high-quality connection building kind of more likely. So how can we ourselves make connection quality matter? And I just want to leave you with a couple of thoughts here. Some starting assumptions is that we are in a connecting profession, no question about it. We grow in connection with other people. We are in a creative field. I mean, growth is really important. And we resource and are resourced by other people. And my assumption is that the more high-quality connections you and I cultivate in our work and our professional life, the more we're going to flourish. So here are the couple of suggestions that I need to remind myself, but I also think about is, one is to create a high-quality connection mindset, and that just simply means paying attention to the connections that you have and that you make and that you walk out. I mean, this is like connection potential. At being at a conference like this. But in particular, you might think about how can you be a contribution? That kind of orientation can really change high-quality connection building. And again, a story. I worked at NYU for my first 7 years on Wall Street in the early 80s. I was scared and somewhat dismayed by the MBAs I encountered, and it imprinted on me a particular schema for what MBAs were like. Fast forward 20 years, I'm teaching a course, and I decide, because I was so inspired by Zander and Zander's book, The Art of Possibility, and how they use narrating yourself as a contribution as a really important way to get musicians to play better quality music. I thought, I added an assignment where the students write a letter to themselves, my MBAs write a letter to themselves in terms of how they've been a contribution in the past, the present, and the future. And Lance can testify because I always love it when I get these letters. I don't grade them, it's pass-fail on the letters. But reading these letters allows them to narrate themselves and see themselves at a contribution. I get so much gratitude from them about just having the opportunity to narrate themselves this way, and it has fundamentally changed how I see them. I see their awesomeness in amazing ways. So again, how can we leave here part of creating a high quality connection so that we can see ourselves as a contribution to others and allow others to see themselves as a contribution to us? And that kind of mindset, I think, conditions us to set ourselves up for a high quality connection. And as other people have said in all different kinds of ways, how can we prepare ourselves to look for the good in the other? Because that kind of priming, the Pygmalion effect, there's a lot, suggests that it will create the connecting. Be available. Again, we know this. Be available physically, if you can make it happen. Because of the exquisiteness of our bodies as instruments, it becomes really important. But be there psychologically. And Ed Hallowell's book, The Human Moment at Work, if you haven't read that, he has a book, but it has a great teaching thing. I'm talking a lot about teaching, but it's actually, this has come so alive to me in teaching because I can just see the difference this has made to the students. And I love that. I love who I can be with them when I'm using this frame. Foster empathy and resonance with others. Importantly, especially in this field, reserve judgment. Oh, I have to work on that so much. Reserve judgment. Remember, there's always pain in the room. There's always pain in the room. And find common ground. Again, we usually when we do this kind of exercise that I had you do, we end up talking about how skillful people are at finding common ground really fast. Well, again, how can we equip ourselves to look for common ground and therefore find it more easily? Institutionalized task enabling or helping. Remember and honor who's enabling you. Seek feedback on whether your enabling of others is making a positive difference. Speaking to the faculty here, we have lots of good intentions, especially with doctoral students, I would say, to try to help them. But we've oftentimes never asked, is it working? Is what I'm doing helpful? Could you please give me feedback about what I'm doing that's working and what that's not? Think about if we had those kinds of conversations, how much, again, our line either could become much slope of our rate of improvement will be much better, but we have to invite that kind of conversation. Build micro communities of high quality connections. And, in my life, I have been so lucky to be part of some wonderful micro communities. So the Positive Organizational Scholarship effort, whatever you want to call it, community has been a huge garden for me, really. And within it, there's a group of us who've been studying compassion, called jokingly the Compassion Lab that's been a really important micro community. The May meeting, which Amy has led for 12 years, that studies the meaning of work, has been a really important micro community. The Positive Relationships at Work, which is sort of a new, budding, very thriving micro community. And then there is a movement afoot to start another one on micro community on positive identity. So these are my micro communities. These are the things that resource me and give me life. I don't know what your micro communities are, but my survival in this field and thriving is when I am most alive in these kinds of micro communities. And there have certainly been times in my professional life where it's felt very barren, but these are gardens that have really saved me. So in closing, remember, every interaction has life-giving possibilities. This isn't just a hope. This is true. It's really true. So leaving this session, what is one action that you could take to foster more high-quality connections in your life? And I'm just going to give you 30 seconds to just think about that. So you're going to leave here, you're going to go into the conference, we're back into the crazy, da-da-da-da. What is one thing you might think about that you could take away from just making this idea salient? And then with deep gratitude, I thank you, and I get really, this is my family, my husband, who's here, my 2 daughters, my wonderful son-in-law, and our newest grandson. We call him Jolly Raleigh. So this is Ross, and then these are the graduate students who I've had the honor of writing with. There's a lot more graduate students that I have worked with, but these are the ones from Michigan that I've written something with, and I want to thank you for collaborating with me. And these are my other non-Michigan collaborators. But I started to write down the pictures of all the people I've written with, and I've had the privilege of connecting and co-creating with, which has just been amazing. So thank you. Questions, or what would you like to do?
It has been such a fantastic session that I think asking a question now wouldn't actually do justice to the feeling and the experience within the room. So what I'd ask you all to do is to come join Jane, I hope, for Making Connections Coffee around the corner in Ballroom C. But thank you so much, and Jane, thank you again for such a fantastic talk. And I think you've reached the hearts in some way of everyone in the room. And some of them will be strangers to you, but it was unbelievable. Thank you.